How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? As you can see, we got a little bit of a different setup. You know what I'm saying? Different setup, same pod, merch. All right. We're going to keep it calm. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it sweet. All right. This is the first official episode of this podcast. So trust me, I'm a little bit excited. I might stumble across my words because of that. Just warning y'all now. I don't want y'all to get on me later. Just letting you know. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to Slow Down. As I said before, this is the first official episode of this podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of taking a pause. Let me get on that for you. I wanted to make this my foundation. I wanted to make this the cornerstone of this project because it's something that I know genuinely, at least for me speaking about it, it's been life changing. Taking a pause has been life changing, especially in my life, my personal circumstances, what I got going on, even currently. Taking pauses, little breaks for myself, because it's not a thing I used to consider before. Taking them now has been monumental in the way that I think, the way that I act, and the way that I move. It's been literally life changing. I'm not dragging it. I promise you I'm not dragging it. But a lot of people underestimate the power of taking breaks in their life, especially because they think that the 24 hours in a day that they have is not enough to get everything they want to get done off their bucket list. And trust me, I'm only speaking like that because I'm also one of those people. But it is. And however you use those 24 hours is going to affect your next 24 and the 24 after that and the 24 after that. So that's why it's also important to incorporate those breaks. Maybe the breaks are 24 hours long. Maybe they're not. But at some point, you're going to need a break. This isn't even a luxury at this point. It's a necessity. It's something that we as people need to incorporate into our daily lifestyles, even our weekly lifestyles. Taking time for yourself as a person is crucial so that you can continue to grow and expand your mindset as a person. Because if you do not take those breaks, if you don't take that time for yourself, it doesn't allow you, you're going to have, at some point sooner or later, you're going to run into tunnel vision. You're going to be only stuck on your way of thinking. And then if you don't take those breaks, other people cannot influence you or maybe even advise you on other ways of thinking. And that's why we have other people in our lives, right? So we can get different perspectives on life, different perspectives on certain issues that we're having. I know a lot of you have that friend that you go to whenever you're having a problem in a relationship, whether you're a guy or a girl. A lot of girls, they have their home girls that they go to, and guys have their home boys. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a mentor of some sort. You know what I'm saying? And at least in the HBCU that I'm connected to, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, the ASL system was a system for at least freshman students to look up to certain students on campus as mentors and peers and form at least a sort of connection with those students, whether good or bad, or even just to make friendly connections, you know? Taking breaks, taking a pause is a question that I have been asked a lot. Why am I taking a pause? A pause for what though? You know what I'm saying? Grind culture, at least in this day and age, has everybody messed all the way up. It has us thinking that we are unstoppable. It has us thinking that we need to continue to get up and go, get up and grind. And this is a message that's going to resonate maybe a little bit deeper with my content creators, my influencers, my, photographers, my videographers, my party promoters, all people in at least those social aspects that are constantly planning, constantly organizing, even student body leaders, etc. If you're in positions of maybe at least inspiring or influencing another person, this is going to resonate heavy with you. And I'm saying that as someone that has been advised from a few different people in those settings, even comedians and hosts, etc. This is going to resonate at least heavily with you because this is a lesson that maybe you've either been forced to learn or that you've learned from other people in your circle. From my own personal experience, I'd say last year I was somewhat in that space. I was a person who enjoyed making videos, enjoyed making content. It was something that I personally took joy in, and I just kept going back to it and back to it and back to it and back to it and back to it until eventually at some point I had lost my why. I'd lost my spark for even creating in general. Any creative passion, any creative flame I had towards that area, towards that field was just gone. It was just gone like that. All of a sudden, I just didn't, it wasn't that I didn't feel like doing it, is I wasn't inspired to. And maybe that's where discipline comes in. But I personally believe that if you don't feel proud of the work that you're about to put out, you shouldn't put out, because over in 9 times out of 10 scenarios, the quality of the work beats the quantity of the work. What's the point of pushing out multiple mediocre works when you could push out one good work and get all of the applause, all of the attention that that singular work deserves on that, instead of releasing all of that mediocre work and having that tied to your name? Release those good things over those mediocre things that you feel in your soul that you're not proud of. If you don't feel in your soul, personally, this is just a belief of mine. If you don't feel in your soul that you can be proud and you can stand on it like, oh, I put my name on this. You know what I'm saying? If you don't feel like you can put your name on something, don't put your name on it. If you're not proud of it, then don't do it. That's especially heavy in taking a pause. That's why a lot of people take a pause, because they end up releasing works that they're not proud of. They end up doing things that they're not proud of. So they take that time, or are forced into that time, to slow down, to take that pause. You know what I mean? Now, when you are taking that pause, it's good to know that that doesn't make you any less of a person. It doesn't make you lazy. Taking a pause in your life doesn't automatically make you a lazy person. That's not what that means. Sometimes resting is actually the smartest thing you can do. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't constantly think straight when your mind is in constant motion. In order for you to constantly produce great ideas, your brain needs rest. Your brain needs to not be thinking. It needs to sleep. It needs to relax. So does your body. For weightlifters, at least that's the example I'm going to use. If you're constantly training your body 24 hours a day, you're not allowing your body to rest, what do you think is going to happen over time to that body? It's going to break down. This is what happens in every field. If you push yourself too hard without taking the adequate amount of rest for yourself, you end up breaking down. You end up pushing yourself past that breaking point. And where does that lead you? That leaves you in a space where you're not useless, where you're not useful, to yourself, where you feel low, where you've beating yourself up, where you may even be affecting your self-worth. And at that point, you're affecting your peace, because your self-worth, I believe, at least, is deeply connected to your peace. When you are in a constant state of motion, when you're constantly getting up and going, and you're constantly chasing all of these things without the adequate amount of rest that a person needs, that leads you to only one thing. And I'm pretty sure if you didn't take anything from literally what I just said, leads to one thing, and that's burnout. As someone who does strive to put myself in greater situations that I am in now, burnout is probably the last thing that I want. The thing I'm most avoiding, actually, which is why after my whole run, my whole encounter with creative burnout and even productive burnout, I actually had to sit back and I had to ask myself, what is my why? Why am I doing these things? You know, burnout can be a double-edged sword, honestly, because it is what you make it at the end of the day. Everything is what you make it at the end of the day. You could choose to let burnout be your source of depression, your source of anxiety, you could let it allow you to drag you down to a place where you don't deserve it to be, at least mentally, at least. I mean, it can hurt you physically as well if you decide to let yourself go. You know what I mean? If you feel like you're not worthy of where you are, if you feel you're not worthy of your circumstances or where you're trying to get to, burnout can honestly lead you lower and lower, sinking into a hole of yourself, of course. But for me, in my case, burnout actually led me, at least after a few weeks. Yes. And I mean weeks of literally not doing anything, not touching anything. In the first early stages of my creative burnout stage, I actually ended up asking myself, why was I doing this? And then I realized that was a question I hadn't ended up asking myself. I just ended up doing it. I just ended up creating those videos. I hadn't asked myself why. What's the intention behind this? What do you want to do behind this? And it's funny because as a child growing up in the household that I did grow up in, with at least in an African household, my parents always hammered on me, at least my mom, she always hammered on me this one specific lesson. If you want to do something, if you want to go after something, make sure you know why you're doing it. Even to this day, she still calls, she still asks me, you want to go after this? I'll support you, but you got to know why you want to do this. You want to go to these places? I'll support you, but I got it. But you have to know why you're doing this. It's not that you can explain it to me. It's that you know why you're doing these things. So what was my why? I realized I hadn't asked myself my why. Once I was able to give myself a why, I was able to build myself back up to the point where I did want to start putting myself back out there, to the point where I did want to actually start working on different projects, to the point where I could handle exploring myself creatively again, which is what led to the birth of this podcast. It wasn't by just my power though. Thank you, God. So in that moment, burnout actually led to silence, which was definitely loud. It forced me to confront a lot of things that I wasn't confronting, that I actually chosen to put on the back burner. It forced me into that situation where I had to ask myself, why do I want to do these things? What's the intention behind these things? It forced me to ask myself why. It was definitely, if I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I definitely give the whole experience, a 2 out of 10 experience. Definitely asking yourself those questions is crucial, but it also forces you to strip away all the delusions that you have. And at least in my case, there were delusions, all the delusion that you have for yourself, and really sit down and ask yourself and hold yourself accountable and make you truly evaluate everything you've done up until this point, whether it's the good or the bad. It's truly a moment of unbiased reflection on the actions of the past that I made. At least because of that experience, I was able to give myself my why, but it involved a lot of personal reflection. And honestly, once all the noise had been picked away, once I was left in that chamber of isolation, in that season of isolation, I realized that all of the noise was just a cover. Honestly, it was really just a cover that allowed me to run away from answering those questions. But once I was able to finally slow down and be real with myself about why I was doing all of these things, and do I want to continue some of these things? Do I want to continue on that path? Or maybe do I want to make a switch or pursue something that I really want to pursue, aka this podcast? The only time I was able to get those answers from myself was when I was forced to isolate myself, to ask myself those questions, to get that intention, to get that why. At least in my case, burnout doesn't have to lead to those places. Slowing down doesn't even have to lead to those types of places, to those negative places. Even while you're on your journey, you don't have to wait until burnout happens until you actually decide to make a change to your lifestyle and ask yourself those questions. Various ways actually can be done outside. They're probably healthier ways, taking mental health days, taking a walk outside, moving without your phone, eating without your phone, taking the long way home, taking scenic drives, taking trips with your friends, etc. Disconnecting. All of these things can play a vital role in a person's health, in a person's effort to slow down. But they have to be intentional. If you're not serious about making all those changes to your life, they're not going to be handed to you. They won't be handed to you. I promise you that. They will not be handed to you, just as they weren't handed to me. I was forced into that situation by my own making. We are creatures of free will. We make the choices that we want to make, whether or not we choose to believe it. We're not forced into any situations that we land ourselves in. We made a choice that landed ourselves there. Just like I made a choice that landed myself in that situation where I was burnt out, where I was tired, where I was exhausted physically, mentally, and spiritually, because I chose to keep working myself into the ground over and over and over again, believing if I don't do this, then I'm not really achieving my goals. That type of belief is not a belief that is for you or is of you. That's not what God would want to see you doing. And maybe if you don't believe in God, whatever deity you do believe in, as a person, the belief that you have to work yourself into the ground in order to make something of yourself isn't healthy. Everyone needs rest. Everyone needs to slow down. Everyone needs to take a pause. Everyone needs to stop whatever they're doing, put their fast life on pause, and take a second to slow down. Everyone, whether or not you're young, whether or not you're old, whether or not you're grown or quote unquote grown, whether or not you're a full-fledged adult in the eyes of society, whether or not you're a kid. It's all about the pressure that's placed on you or that you place on yourself from whatever age you're at. Some people have a desire to move their family from a situation, from one area to another. Like, I know a whole lot of influencers whose goal was to take their families from whatever situation they were in and to move them into a greater state of living, a greater dimension of being, which is a great goal to have. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to take care of yourself in order to reach those goals, to reach those milestones. If you don't take the time to appreciate yourself, how far you've gotten, how far you've come, and understand that you as a person need rest, and you deserve, not just need, but you deserve it. You deserve that rest. You deserve love, because at the end of the day, you not serving yourself properly, you not allowing yourself those pauses, you not allowing yourself those breaks isn't love. It isn't love to yourself. It isn't love for the people around you. It isn't even love for those goals and aspirations. You're disrespecting them and you're disrespecting yourself. I think at this point, I may end up wrapping it up, but I do want to leave all of you with this question. At least this week, I want you to think, because as I said in episode 0, my main goal is to make sure maybe from at least one point in this episode, I made you think. So this is me asking you that question. Are you living at your own pace, or are you reacting to everyone else's pace? A lot of what we see, a lot of what we consume, a lot of the way we act is influenced off of something. Maybe a book that we read, a video that we saw, the way nature moves outside. I don't know, but a lot of how people move is influenced off something that we saw. And a lot of things that we see, admittedly, are on social media. They're in the palm of our hand, just like my phone is in the palm of mine currently. Allowing yourself to slow down means separating yourself from everything that you see on social media and accepting yourself for who you truly are. I know a lot of us see various influencers. I know a lot of people see kids your age or people your age at different stages of life. And while you may think you need to push yourself to get to that point, now at the point that you're at, maybe it's just not your season. Everybody has a season that they're going to step into at some point. Whether or not you believe it is on you, but you have that season. You don't have to rush into it right now. That does not mean you don't have to work towards it. That just means that if you're not there, you're going to get there. You're just not there right now. It's not about being there. It's not about beating another person to where you want to be. It's not about comparison, because at the end of the day, if you keep comparing yourself to everything that you see online, the only person you're hurting is yourself, because comparison is the thief of joy. You know? At the end of the day, the last thing I'm going to leave you with, the last thing I'm going to tell you guys is this. I do want you to know that even if you are taking that time to slow down, even if you are taking that time for yourself, you aren't falling behind anyone. You're actually just making sure you're actually going where you want to go, at the pace where you want to go, at the pace that you want to set for yourself, how you want to set it, and abiding by the values that you stand for. Thank you for tuning in to that. Actually, I made it past the 22-minute mark. That's crazy. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Slow Down. I appreciate you once again for tuning in. Thank you. I'm sorry if maybe some of what I said didn't make any sense. As I said before, I'm a little bit excited, so I may have gone on. I apologize for that. Sometimes I do go off on tangents. I told y'all that in episode 0. But once again, yeah, just thank you for tapping in. If you resonated with at least one thing I said today, share it with a friend, share the message. You know what I'm saying? As many people as we can get to appreciate themselves and where they are in life. You know what I'm saying? Or even as many people as we can get to slow down, as many people as we can spread a message to. You know what I'm saying? Spread it to them the same way that you share TikToks and Reels to your friends. Share it to them. I appreciate you. I love you. It's been me, and I'll see y'all next week. Slow down.